have no right to be here without a warrant. I'm not letting you in.
Ma'am, step aside. We're taking custody.
Not without papers. Show me a judge's signature.
Open it now.
Hey, stop! You can't do this!
Hands behind your back. Stop
I'm not going anywhere with you.
Cuffs.
Neighbors, record this. They're breaking in.
Two masked ICE agents stormed a retired attorney's home in broad daylight, and it cost them everything. Before we continue, let me take this opportunity to thank you so much for supporting our channel. Just choosing to watch our video means a lot to us. Before we go any further, tell us, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country below, and don't forget to like and subscribe if this is your first time here. It was a Tuesday afternoon in May when Lorraine Bishop heard the pounding on her front door. She was 55 years old, retired, a woman who'd spent 30 years as a state attorney prosecuting civil rights violations and police misconduct. She'd put dirty cops behind bars. She'd fought for people who had no voice. And now, in her own home, in her own neighborhood, someone was banging on her door like they owned the place. Lorraine walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Two men stood on her porch. Both wore black tactical gear. Both wore masks covering the lower half of their faces. One held a clipboard. The other had his hand resting on his belt, near his weapon. She opened the door halfway, keeping the chain lock fastened. "Can I help you?" she asked. "We need to see your identification and papers. Now." Lorraine's eyes narrowed. "Do you have a warrant?" "We don't need a warrant for a compliance check," the man said. His voice was cold, clipped. "Actually, you do," Lorraine said. "This is my private residence. You have no right to demand anything without a warrant or probable cause." The second agent stepped closer. "Ma'am, we're not asking. Show us your ID or we'll assume you're non-compliant." Lorraine didn't move. "I'm a United States citizen. I'm a retired state attorney, and I know my rights. You're not coming into my home, and I'm not showing you anything without a court order." The second agent let out a low chuckle. "State attorney, huh? You people always think you're above the law." Lorraine caught it, the tone, the way he said, "you people." She'd heard it 1,000 times in courtrooms, in police stations, in back rooms where men like this thought no one was listening. "Get off my property," she said. Her voice was steady, firm. The first agent didn't move. "Last chance? Open the door and show us your papers." "No." "Then you're under arrest for obstruction." Lorraine laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It was the laugh of someone who'd seen this game played before and knew exactly how it ended. "You're arresting me? On my own property? For refusing an illegal search?" "Step outside, ma'am." "No." The second agent moved fast. He shoved his boot into the doorframe just as Lorraine tried to close it. The chain snapped. The door flew open. Lorraine stumbled back, but didn't fall. "Get your hands off me," she shouted. Both of them grabbed her arms. She pulled away, twisting her body. She wasn't going quietly. She'd spent her whole life telling people to stand up for themselves. She wasn't about to roll over now. "You have no right," she yelled. "This is illegal detention. You have no warrant, no probable cause." One of the agents yanked her wrists behind her back. The metal cuffs bit into her skin. Her neighbor, an older white woman named Patricia, stepped out onto her porch across the street. She had her phone in her hand. "What are you doing?" Patricia shouted. "That's Lorraine. She's a lawyer. She lives here." The agents ignored her. They dragged Lorraine down her front steps. Her feet scraped against the concrete. She didn't stop talking. "You're violating my Fourth Amendment rights. You're conducting an unlawful arrest. I'm a U.S. citizen and you have no authority." "Shut up," one of them said. They shoved her into the back of an unmarked black SUV. Patricia was still filming. And, mounted on the corner of Lorraine's porch, barely visible under the eave, was a small CCTV camera. It had been recording the whole time. Lorraine sat in the back of the SUV with her wrists cuffed behind her back. Her shoulders ached. Her heart was pounding, but her mind was clear. She'd been in enough interrogations, enough tense situations to know one thing: stay calm. Document everything. Remember every detail. The agent in the passenger seat turned around. He still had his mask on. "You should have just shown us your ID," he said. "And you should have had a warrant," Lorraine shot back. "What you just did is illegal. You entered my home without permission, without probable cause, and without a warrant. That's breaking and entering. That's assault. That's unlawful detention." The driver laughed. "You hear this? She thinks she's still in a courtroom." "I don't need to be in a courtroom to know the law," Lorraine said. "And when this is over, you're going to wish you'd walked away." The second agent turned in his seat. His eyes were cold. "You really think anyone's going to believe you over us?" he said. "You think anyone's going to care what happens to someone like you?" There it was again. Someone like you. Lorraine stared at him. "Say it. Go ahead. Say what you really mean." He didn't answer, but the silence said enough. They drove her to a federal detention facility 30 miles outside the city. When they pulled her out of the SUV, she didn't resist. She was done giving them excuses to hurt her. Inside, they processed her like she was a criminal. Fingerprints, mugshot, intake form. They didn't read her rights. They didn't let her make a phone call. "I'm entitled to legal representation," Lorraine said. "I'm entitled to a phone call." "You'll get it when we say you get it," one of them said. They locked her in a holding cell. Concrete walls, a metal bench, a toilet in the corner. No windows. She sat down and closed her eyes. Think, Lorraine, think. She ran through the timeline in her head. The knock on the door, the demand for ID, the forced entry, the arrest. All of it illegal. All of it documented. Patricia had her phone out. She'd seen the whole thing. And the CCTV camera. Lorraine had installed it 2 years ago after a break-in down the street. It was motion-activated, cloud storage, high definition. If it caught what she thought it caught, those men were finished. But first, she had to get out. Hours passed. No one came. No phone call, no lawyer, no explanation. Finally, a guard opened the cell door. A woman in a federal uniform stepped inside. "Lorraine Bishop? That's me. You've been charged with obstruction of a federal investigation, failure to comply with a lawful order, and resisting arrest." Lorraine laughed bitterly. Lawful order? They didn't have a warrant. They had no probable cause. They broke into my home. The woman didn't blink. "That's not what the report says." "Then the report is a lie." The woman handed her a paper. "Your hearing is in 48 hours. You'll remain in custody until then." "I want my phone call." "You'll get it in the morning." "That's not how this works." The woman walked out. The door slammed shut. Lorraine sat back down. Her hands were shaking now, not from fear, from rage. She'd spent her entire career fighting this exact thing. Illegal arrests, police misconduct, abuse of power, and now it was happening to her. But she wasn't some scared kid who didn't know the system. She was the system. She knew every loophole, every procedure, every law those men had broken, and she was going to make them pay. The next morning, they finally let her make a call. She dialed her old colleague, Marcus Haynes. He was a defense attorney now, one of the best in the state. "Lorraine, it's Marcus. Where are you? I heard something happened." "I'm in federal detention. 2 ICE agents arrested me yesterday. No warrant, no cause. They broke into my home and dragged me out." There was silence on the other end. "Marcus? I'm coming to get you. Don't say another word to anyone. I'll be there in 2 hours. "One more thing," Lorraine said. "My CCTV camera. It's cloud-based. The footage uploads automatically. Patricia across the street was filming too. Get that footage. All of it." "I'm on it." She hung up. For the first time since the door had been kicked open, Lorraine allowed herself a small smile. They had no idea what was coming. Marcus Haynes arrived at the detention facility exactly 2 hours later. He was a tall man in his early 60s with silver hair and a reputation for tearing apart bad cases.
He'd worked alongside Lorraine for 15 years when she was a prosecutor. He knew how she thought, he knew how she fought, and he knew she didn't get arrested for no reason. They let him see her in a small interview room. Lorraine was still in the clothes she'd been wearing when they dragged her out. Her wrists had bruises from the cuffs. Marcus sat down across from her. He didn't say anything at first. He just looked at her. "Tell me everything," he said. Lorraine walked him through it. The knock, the demand for papers, the refusal, the forced entry, the arrest, the ride, the holding cell, every detail. Marcus took notes. His jaw tightened as she spoke. "They didn't read you your rights?" "No." "No warrant?" "None." "No probable cause?" "Nothing. They just decided I was guilty of something and arrested me." Marcus leaned back in his chair. "This is bad, Lorraine, but it's also incredibly stupid on their part." "I know." "You have the footage?" "Patricia was filming, and my CCTV caught everything. It's all backed up to the cloud." Marcus nodded. "I already sent someone to get Patricia's phone. We'll subpoena the CCTV footage as evidence. This is open and shut." "It's more than that," Lorraine said quietly. "One of them said something, called me you people. The way he looked at me, Marcus, this wasn't just about immigration enforcement. This was personal." Marcus's eyes darkened. "You think this was racially motivated?" "I know it was." "Then we're not just going after them for unlawful arrest. We're going after them for everything." Lorraine's hearing was scheduled for the next day. Marcus filed an emergency motion to have her released on her own recognizance. The judge, a no-nonsense woman named Catherine Delgado, reviewed the case file and raised an eyebrow. "The arresting agents didn't have a warrant?" Judge Delgado asked. The federal prosecutor, a young man named Colin Reed, cleared his throat. "Your Honor, the agents were conducting a routine compliance check." "On private property without a warrant?" Judge Delgado cut him off. "Counselor, you know that's not legal." "The defendant refused to comply with a lawful order." "What lawful order? Show me the warrant." Reed hesitated. "There wasn't one, Your Honor." Judge Delgado looked at Lorraine, then at Marcus. "Miss Bishop is released immediately. All charges are dismissed. And Mr. Reed, you tell those agents they're lucky I'm not holding them in contempt right now." Lorraine walked out of that courtroom a free woman, but she wasn't done. Marcus launched a full investigation. He pulled the CCTV footage, crystal clear. 4 minutes and 37 seconds of 2 masked agents demanding ID, forcing entry, and dragging a 55-year-old woman off her property. He got Patricia's phone video, shaky but clear enough. You could hear Lorraine asserting her rights. You could hear the agents threatening her. Then Marcus did something else. He ran background checks on both agents. Their names were Kyle Brenner and Todd Voss. Both had complaints filed against them before: excessive force, racial profiling, aggressive tactics. Nothing had ever stuck. They'd been shuffled between departments, reassigned, quietly moved. But Marcus found something else: social media posts, private messages that had been leaked by a whistleblower inside ICE. Group chats where Brenner and Voss talked openly about immigrants, about black communities, about people they saw as the problem. In one message, Voss had written, "These people think they run everything now. Time to remind them who's really in charge." In another, Voss had shared a meme mocking Black Lives Matter protesters. Brenner had posted a photo of himself at a rally organized by a known white nationalist group. Marcus compiled it all: every message, every post, every complaint, every piece of evidence. And then he filed a federal lawsuit, not just against the 2 agents, against the agency, against the department, against everyone who had protected these men and allowed them to keep their badges. The case went viral within days. News outlets picked it up. Retired state attorney unlawfully arrested in her own home by ICE agents with a history of racial bias. CCTV footage released to the public. The video spread everywhere. Millions of views. protests outside the federal building, calls for accountability. Lorraine watched it all unfold from her living room. Her wrist was still bruised, her door was still broken, but she wasn't backing down. "They wanted to make an example out of me," she told Marcus on the phone one night. "Now I'm going to make an example out of them." The trial began 6 months later in federal court. The courtroom was packed. News cameras lined the hallway outside. Protesters held signs that read, "Justice for Lorraine" and "Hold ICE accountable." Lorraine sat at the plaintiff's table beside Marcus. She wore a navy blue suit. Her hair was pulled back. She looked calm, composed, like she'd done this 1,000 times before. Because she had. Across the aisle sat Kyle Brenner and Todd Voss. Both were out on bail. Both wore suits now instead of tactical gear. No masks this time. Lorraine stared at them. They wouldn't meet her eyes. The judge presiding over the case was Honorable Raymond Ochoa, a federal judge with a reputation for being tough but fair. He'd reviewed all the evidence before the trial even started, and from the look on his face, he wasn't impressed. Marcus stood to give his opening statement. "Your Honor, members of the jury, this case is about abuse of power. It's about two men who believed they were above the law. On May 14th, these two agents stormed Lorraine Bishop's home without a warrant, without probable cause, and without any legal justification. They demanded she produce papers. She refused, as was her constitutional right. And for that, they broke into her home, assaulted her, and unlawfully detained her." He turned to face the jury. Lorraine Bishop is a retired state attorney. She spent 30 years prosecuting police misconduct and civil rights violations. She knows the law better than most, and she knew, standing on her porch that day, that what these men were doing was illegal. She stood her ground, and they punished her for it. Marcus walked over to his screen. He clicked a remote. The CCTV footage began to play. The courtroom went silent. You could hear everything, the pounding on the door. Lorraine's voice, calm and firm. "Do you have a warrant?" Brenner's response, "We don't need a warrant for a compliance check." Lorraine, "Actually, you do. This is my private residence." Then the moment Voss kicked the door open, the sound of the chains snapping, Lorraine stumbling back. Her voice louder now. "You have no right. This is illegal detention." And then Voss's voice, low and cold. "You people always think you're above the law." The jury leaned forward. Marcus paused the video. "You people," he repeated. "Not citizens, not residents. You people." And later he said it again. "You think anyone's going to care what happens to someone like you?" He let that hang in the air. This wasn't about immigration enforcement. This was about race. This was about two men who saw a black woman standing up for herself and decided she needed to be put in her place. The defense attorney, a man named Peter Grimshaw, objected. "Your Honor, counsel is speculating." "Overruled," Judge Ochoa said. "The jury will decide what the evidence shows. Continue, Mr. Haynes." Marcus played the rest of the footage. The arrest, the cuffs, Lorraine being dragged to the SUV. Then he pulled up the social media posts. Voss's message, "These people think they run everything now. Time to remind them who's really in charge." Voss's meme mocking black protesters. Brenner's photo at the white nationalist rally. The defense tried to argue it was taken out of context, that it was personal opinion, not job-related. But Marcus was ready. "Your Honor, these posts were made while these men were employed as federal agents. They swore an oath to uphold the Constitution, to protect all citizens regardless of race. And yet, here they are, openly expressing contempt for the very people they were supposed to serve." He turned to face the jury. Lorraine Bishop did nothing wrong. She was in her own home. She asserted her rights. And for that, she was arrested, humiliated, and locked in a cell for 2 days. Not because she broke the law, but because two men with badges didn't like that she wouldn't bow down. The prosecution called Lorraine to the stand. She walked up slowly, took the oath, sat down. Marcus asked her to recount what happened. She did, calmly, clearly. No emotion, just facts. Then Grimshaw cross-examined her. "Miss Bishop, isn't it true you were uncooperative?" "No, I asserted my constitutional rights." "You refused to show identification." "I refused an illegal search." "You resisted arrest." "I resisted an unlawful detention." Grimshaw tried to rattle her, tried to paint her as difficult, combative, someone with a chip on her shoulder. But Lorraine didn't break. She'd been in courtrooms her whole life. She knew how to handle cross-examination, and the jury could see it. The defense called the two agents. Brenner claimed they had a reasonable suspicion that Lorraine matched a description of someone they were looking for. Marcus destroyed him on cross. "What description?" Brenner hesitated. "A black woman, mid-50s. "That's it? That's your reasonable suspicion? A black woman in her 50s? Do you know how many people fit that description?" Brenner didn't answer. Marcus pulled up Lorraine's address. "Her name is on the mailbox. Her name is on public records. You knew exactly who lived there, and you went anyway." Voss tried to claim they knocked politely, that Lorraine escalated the situation. Marcus played the footage again, the pounding, the shouting, the kicked door. "Does that look polite to you?" Voss was the last to testify, and he made a mistake. "We were just doing our job," he said. "Your job," Marcus repeated. "Is your job to call citizens you people? Is your job to mock the communities you're supposed to protect?" Voss's lawyer objected, but the damage was done. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the verdict was clear. Guilty on all counts. Unlawful arrest, violation of civil rights, excessive force, racial discrimination. Judge Ochoa didn't hesitate. "Kyle Brenner, Todd Voss, you abused your power. You violated the trust placed in you, and you targeted a citizen because of the color of her skin. I'm sentencing each of you to 15 years in federal prison." The courtroom erupted. Lorraine sat still. She didn't smile, didn't cheer. She just exhaled.
3 weeks after the verdict, the city reached a settlement. $2 million. The mayor's office released a statement. They called it an acknowledgement of wrongdoing, a commitment to reform, a promise to do better. Lorraine read the statement from her living room. She folded the paper and set it on the table. $20 million couldn't undo what happened. It couldn't erase the memory of being dragged from her own home. It couldn't take back the 2 days she spent in a cell like a criminal. But it was something. Marcus came by that afternoon. He brought coffee. They sat on her porch, the same porch where it all started. "You did it," he said. Lorraine shook her head. "We did it. You, me, Patricia, everyone who stood up." Still, 15 years. That's real time. "It's not enough," Lorraine said quietly, "but it's a start." Marcus nodded. "You gonna keep fighting?" Lorraine looked at him. "What do you think?" He smiled. "I think those men had no idea who they were messing with." The news coverage continued for weeks. Lorraine gave interviews. She talked about systemic racism, about the abuse of power, about why it mattered that people know their rights and stand up for them. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't pretend the system worked perfectly, because it didn't. But she also didn't give up on it. "This case wasn't just about me," she said in one interview. "It was about every person who's ever been targeted because of how they look, every person who's been told to comply when the law says they don't have to, every person who's been punished for standing their ground." The interviewer asked her if she was afraid. Lorraine thought about it. "I was angry. I was furious. But afraid? No, because fear is what they wanted. They wanted me to be quiet, to back down, to just show them my papers and let them walk all over me." She leaned forward, and I refused. A year later, Lorraine started a nonprofit. It was called Stand Your Ground Legal Defense. It provided free legal representation to people who'd been unlawfully arrested or detained by federal agents. She partnered with civil rights organizations, with defense attorneys, with activists. She trained people on their rights, taught them what to say, what to record, how to protect themselves. Because she knew what happened to her wasn't unique. It happened every day to people who didn't have cameras, who didn't have lawyers, who didn't have 30 years of legal experience to fight back. Lorraine wanted to give them a chance. The two agents, Brenner and Voss, were transferred to a federal prison in another state. They appealed. The appeal was denied. Their families gave interviews, said the men were good people, said the trial was unfair, said it was all a misunderstanding. But the footage didn't lie. The messages didn't lie. The evidence didn't lie. In the 15-year sentence stood. Lorraine never moved. She stayed in the same house, fixed the door, upgraded the security cameras. Patricia still lived across the street. They had coffee together twice a week now. "You ever regret it?" Patricia asked one morning, standing up to them like that. Lorraine didn't hesitate. No. If I had backed down, if I had just shown them my papers and let them walk away, they'd still be out there, still targeting people, still abusing their power. She sipped her coffee. "I didn't fight back just for me. I fought back for everyone who couldn't." Patricia smiled. "You're a hell of a woman, Lorraine. I'm just someone who knows her rights and refuses to let anyone take them away." So here's the question. Do you think justice was served? 15 years for those two agents? $20 million? A system forced to acknowledge what happened. Is that enough? Or should there have been more? What would you have done if you were in Lorraine's shoes? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story moved you, hit that like button and subscribe. We share real stories about real people standing up for what's right. You won't want to miss the next one. Thanks for watching.